The return of Duke Nukem Forever, PlayStation Move, and a whole lot of PAX news. My name is Dan Resler, it's the 5th of September, and this is Gamer Update. To start things off, the first gameplay footage for Obsidian and Square Enix's baby, Dragon Siege 3, is out, to which there is a link in the underbar. So far, it's looking a good bit like Diablo, but with better graphics and more awesome. A whole bunch of screenshots for Fable 3 came out, showing that the Fable universe has finally entered the industrial age. No more idyllic green pastures for you, only smoke and gray. If you've been paying pretty much any attention to gaming news for the past 10 years, you'd know that Duke Nukem Forever is a game that almost everyone considered to be vaporware. It was originally announced in 1998, and we've only seen a few sparse screenshots thrown out there. Almost a year ago, the original developer 3D Realms had almost all of its staff laid off, and the game was pronounced dead. However, Borderlands developer Gearbox Studios has taken up the torch to finish the game and says they are almost completed with it. In fact, there is a playable demo at PAX, of which there is a link in the underbar. The demo actually starts, I kid you not, with the Duke going to the restroom. You press right trigger to urinate. Don't press left trigger, that would be bad. What passed as humor in 1997 now just comes across as classless and lowbrow, and honestly, I kinda wish the game had stayed dead. So the Indiecade Festival is coming up, which is sort of like the Oscars of independent gaming, except they have a new rule this year where every game nominated is nominated for all categories. Going back to our Oscar parallel, this would mean that District 9 would be eligible for Best Comedy. Now they've got a bunch of the usual categories like Best Art Style and Most Innovative, but my favorite category by far is Sublime Experience. So Dead Rising Case Zero came out, which is essentially a prolonged paid demo for Dead Rising 2, and this is a little concerning for me, because what if in the future we have no more free demos and all companies go on the paid demo route? I like to try games before I buy them sometimes, since $60 is a pretty big investment. But I want to know what you guys think. Leave in the comments, which do you prefer? A really short demo that you don't have to pay anything for so you can try before you buy, or a somewhat longer demo that you have to pay a slight fee for? Leave in the comments. So the newly formed Red 5 Studios has announced their first game, Firefall, which is being described as a dynamic action shooter, which really doesn't say a whole lot about the game, but what does say a whole lot about the game is that the head of the studio was also the head of the studio that made Tribes way back in the day. I've seen some gameplay footage that you can also see in the underbar, and it does look like it has some strong potential, but it also looks a lot like Section 8, which is bringing back some terrible, terrible memories. Please, Firefall, don't suck. So there's this awesome new gray Xbox 360 controller coming out that not only has that awesome new grayscale art style, but also has a transformable D-pad. I'm not sure why you'd ever want that, but you can go from a traditional D-pad or twist it, and it becomes the Xbox D-pad with little thingies in between. Unfortunately, right now, you can't buy the controller by itself. You have to buy it as part of the Play and Charge Kit, which is Xbox's terminology for a rechargeable battery, at $65. The first actual footage of Hothead's next game, Swarm, came out, to which there's a link in the underbar, where you have to guide a horde of stupid creatures across a series of obstacles and keep at least one of them alive, much in the same vein as Lemmings, and it seems to have a really good sense of humor as well, so definitely after the video, check out that link in the underbar. If you were to imagine a game that contained the Heavy from Team Fortress 2, Max from Sam & Max, Strongbad from Homestar Runner, and Tycho from Penny Arcade, it probably wouldn't be a poker game. However, that's exactly what you're getting with Poker Night at the Inventory Steamworks, which for the most part is a typical poker game, except it has voice dialogue from the various characters that it features, so that could be cool. Now, I play a lot of downloadable games, and I've had the Wii essentially since it came out, but I have never bought a WiiWare game, mostly just because there's been nothing that's interested me. However, that's all about to change with Fluidity that they showed off at PAX. Essentially, what Fluidity is a puzzle game where you control water and do water-related things. It's really hard to explain. Just hit the link in the underbar, you'll see what I mean. Staying with WiiWare, the next game in the Bit Trip series has been detailed. Bit Trip Fate is sort of an on-rails shmup where you point the Wiimote and shoot things in 2 dimensions. Battle vs. Chess, which is in no way named solely for the purpose of being similar to the much more successful Battle Chess, is coming out on September 28th for $40 and is essentially just chess with a few puzzle modes thrown in. Hey, you remember the guys that made Trials HD? Well, they're making a WiiWare game called Moto Heroes with a Z on the end, and I love it when games have Z's on the end. Poor spelling is the best indicator of how awesome a game is going to be. Well, anyway, Moto Heroes is essentially going to be like Trials, where you're trying to balance a bike, except a lot easier and more speed-based. It will also contain multiplayer races, which might be fun. So in the recent Apple press conference, along with announcing some crappy TV things, Steve Jobs gave the Steve Jobs treatment to the upcoming Game Center for iPhone 4.1, which is essentially an infrastructure for games in which they will have achievements and matchmaking and just general awesomeness. To go along with Game Center, Epic Games announced Project Sword, which is a game coming out for the iPhone and Game Center, which is most remarkable because it uses the Unreal 3 engine on the iPhone, and it looks fantastic. There's a demo out now, you should go check it out. So the PlayStation Move is very near release, and a lot of the very first reviews for all the games coming out for the PlayStation Move have come out, and so far they have been Overall, very, very, very disappointing, with scores ranging from the 1s and 3s and maxing out at around 8. Most of those low scores were solely because the game sucked and not the hardware itself, so keep your fingers crossed that a really good game will come out for PlayStation Move. I want this to do good. Last and probably least, we got a bunch of information on Call of Duty Black Ops, including the fact that it will have a theater mode in which you will be able to make montages of your various matches and spam YouTube. The second thing being that the game will have a currency system that you can then use for gambling, so if you want to bet a certain amount of money, virtual money, not real money, that would be bad, on a match, you can do so. Sorry this is slow news week, hopefully we'll have more stuff next week. Also, next week we are reviving the BGN podcast, which many of you listened to back on the old site. We're bringing it back, so look forward to that for next week. I'll give you more details. Until then, goodbye, Internet.